Welcome everyone to another episode of the Terrain Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Today on the Terrain Studio, day 5, working here in studio. It's been a haul. I have been working both in studio on these live streams and then as well when I get off. Last night I think I spent about 6 hours building shipping boxes for a project. So I've done a lot of foam work here in the last few days, but I am back at the Kashyyyk Project. All I did yesterday was A, fix my C-stand, and 2, clean up the beach a little bit. I did a little bit of sanding on it, so I'm going to shift away from the beach today and start working on a little bit of the concept for the barrier wall and how that's going to exactly work. I think I'm going to do sort of like sort of a wedge shaped feature. So just reminding you about what that looks like. I think in this particular photo here, that concept photo, if you recall, right on the right hand side, we're going to look at that sort of wall that's down there. And so I thought about doing them sort of in this like wedge shape. They are sort of smooth on the outside, so I may have to abandon from that. I'll look and see what kind of shape we can put in there. So I do want to cut something that I can make and replicate the blocks because I want to do the windows in each one of those, but I don't want to do one big solid piece. So we'll look and see what we can create. We may have to do sort of a template and then sort of bisect that into sections, and so we'll work on that today in terms of concept. So let me know where you guys are hanging out from today if you do join us in chat. And I'll give you a quick shot here. Let me swap those mics. There we go. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Going to be working under the close cam on one, and then just sort of giving you that broader image there. You can see those two blue lines are effectively where we're going to sort of put in those shapes. I had a little bit of a rethink around one part of this, and we'll sort of have a look at the concept and see if it's something that we want to explore or not. But I think for the most part, we're going to kind of leave those shapes in. We'll clear away some of the extraneous bits as well. So if you have questions, as always, just shoot them into the chat. I will bring my mouse over to the set where I'm working, and I can answer questions accordingly. So let me just swap that one over. I have a little bit of a close-up one here too when we're working on various shots. That's some of the concept art that we looked at before. So if there's no questions here, I'm going to jump over to the working space, and maybe I'll just start under close cam here and join you at the table. All right, let me swap back over here. I'm just gonna hot mic myself and grab my headset so I can hear the dings and bops of the stream. So let me know if the audio is okay for you guys and you guys are hearing me okay. So today what I'm gonna do before I start getting into working with any more expensive materials, relatively expensive materials, foam's a bit more than paper. I just wanted to sort of concept out this layout here. So loose structure-wise, we kind of have the. Let me just quickly and crudely draw this out. We have the tree that's sort of setting like that. And what we do is we have, I think basically we're coming from just about the front corner. And then we have this sort of, let me grab both images here. There you go. So you can kind of see from front of the tree, it sort of swoops out, and then we sort of like trail off to the side of the table like that. And then from in tight, we have a little bit more of a straight shot. And that one sort of like goes like that. So we have sort of these two sort of S shape or half an S shape, I guess, retaining walls. I thought just in interest, and perhaps it might be cool. I know originally I wasn't going to, but I thought about maybe bringing that one back around there, and then swooping that in. Let me go and switch this to, oops, switch it to that. And so I thought about perhaps coming off the side of the tree and coming here and then actually doing the round piece. The reason being is I thought about if this was the leading edge and this ends up being about 2.5 inches up and this one is about 1 inch, 1.0 inches up, it might be interesting to have this be right down to ground level and actually do some sort of stair or piece to get up here. Then we could have another stair or some sort of ramp to go up here. And then keeping in mind that we had the two huts, one being like here, and then the other one being here, because of course off the tree itself, we have the large platform there, and then the other large platform there. So if we come up from the beach being here, and I think we had the beach kind of following the contour, something like that, coming in from the beach, you hit the retaining wall, the nice large one, but then if it was sloped here, there'd be a way to kind of come into this cove right here and then come up through and then flow up through like we had talked about before. So if we're going to do that, what that's going to translate onto the table is a little bit different. So let's jump over. I'm actually just going to swap cameras. There we go. And so in looking at that, effectively what we have, make sure I got the shot here, we would have to change this to be something like coming in here, and then it's going to kind of like go around. And I don't think it's too drastic of a change. So now you can kind of sloop in here, entryway there, entryway there. Let me just grab those two hut bases. Hut base is going to go right here. And so the stairs will come up and actually join right onto the hut itself. And then the other hut being here in nature, and remember it's a little bit up, and so that sloped ramp would go sort of up to this existing hut there. So I don't know if that's good or not. I think it'll give this a little bit of a profile, and so I'm willing to explore that and just sort of figure out what that looks like. The only problem with that, and when I say problem, is we got to figure out how sort of big this retaining wall is, like how thick and how much space it's actually going to occupy. Running it straight off here gives us a little bit more area to work with, but has a little less, it becomes sort of redundant here. And I think having this swooping piece here gives us another bit of a, just a bit of a focal feature that we can sort of mess around with. So I think in the interest of this, and if you were playing on the skirmish table and you're kind of playing right here, it gives you a little bit of a place to deploy your units that maybe perhaps are out of line of sight or at least obscured and not necessarily high and elevated and super exposed. So I think I'm okay and willing to work with that. We'll just have to figure out the thickness and how much the wall's going to occupy. So let's switch over here. I'm going to take this headphone off just in the interest that until I need them. What I want to do now is I just want to figure out roughly what size or shape we're going to work with for this wall. I'm just going to use my handy Stadler bendy ruler here. It's not going to quite be enough, but I just want to sort of roughly obtain the shape. And then this will give me sort of something to start paper templating out. And then what I'll do is I'll translate that over to a couple pieces of foam, some 1-inch foam, which I did go and buy, just to sort of see what that looks like. The problem with the 1-inch retaining wall is I don't know if I'm going to be able to cut in the windows into that one. So I'm thinking that I might keep this one relatively low key in terms of accoutrements and windows, and then leave the 2.5-inch one that's going to be over here you know, we'll have about 1.5 inches distance, and I think that might be enough to put a window in. It's not a lot of space to work with, but who knows, the windows might actually indicate something that's like sort of subterranean. So I don't exactly know how that's supposed to translate, but I think I can put a little bit of a feature in there. So we need to figure out this sort of space and what that's going to look like, and then we're going to translate that template over to a foam piece and sort of see what that looks like. All right, so to do that, what we're going to do is grab a couple pieces of paper, a pencil, a marker, which we have, and some painter's tape. You can use any kind of tape. I just always use painter's tape for everything because I think it translates nicely to be taken off, put back on, reapplied, that sort of thing. Okay, so keep in mind the tree at this point is not attached, so we can remove it if need be, or we determine it's in the way. Just going to put down a couple pieces of tape here. Just covered that to make sure that I had enough room. I'm going to actually do this instead, just because I think I'm going to need to put a line through there. Okay, so now what I want to do is go in and put that blue line in a little bit deeper. Ask the questions if you got any. Let me know what you're working on if you're working on. Johnny, yes, I did sand. Thanks for the question. I did sand the shoreline down a little bit yesterday after I got everything cleaned up. And so I don't mind the distractions either, so please ask. But I did actually sand this down. Let me rotate this cam over for you here. And I will swap that over for you as well on the visual. So there you go. So I did go in and sand this a little bit last night, and so you guys can see what I put in, and I'm really hoping that you can pick up the undulations in this. So, you know, as we move through here, if you just watch my fingers, this is the best way to show an undulation. If you just kind of watch them sort of moving up and down a little bit, I'm not sure if it's translating too much onto the camera, but like I can just tell you, like dip, up, dip, dip, up, dip, up, dip. Like that's kind of what we've carved in here, and you can see that I've cut in, brought this quite a bit into the beach there as well. Let me get some stuff out of the way here. So yeah, it's looking good. I got down to that 1/4 inch along here, so we have that nice transition. I brought that all the way along, and that will be ready for the sculpt to mold. But first of all, I want to do is lay in the rest of the features, because if I don't have the features laid in, then what you end up doing is the same process a few times, and I'm really all about if I can, I really like to do things, or at least get to one stage and do it all at the same time. So we'll lay in this feature here, we'll figure out those back slopes, and then we'll do all the sculpt to mold, cellular clay, what have you, at the exact same time. So, all right, let's translate this back to what we were looking at here, and just sort of see if we can't quite see that blue as much as I would have liked. I can sort of see it, but the light is a bit bright. I'm just going to put a little bit of black down and see if the black shows up any better. Not quite. All right, so that's fine. We'll fully translate this over with our ruler, and really we can draw it in and put it in however we want. I do want to have some sort of cool bends in this, because I want it to be a kind of a cool feature. So I might actually put a little bit of a bend there, then bring it out more of a more standard curve here, and then maybe kick it in and then flare it out a little bit. All right. Doing a loose pencil line here. Trying to stay out of the way best I can. Flare it right there. And from here, I'm gonna bring it in, and then I'm just gonna kick it out just a little bit to this other one. There we go. Okay. So just to give you the visual of that, let me cut this out for you. Right. So let's just cut along this. Probably hang back under the camera so you guys can see this. That is alright, cool. So I'm just gonna cut this out. Not married to anything. Again, this is cutting it out of paper and then translating this as a stencil over to foam is both economical and a great visual. It gets me to be able to see. You guys know I like to gotta see things physically, and while it's a little bit flat and hard to see the depth of the actual retaining wall, got a pretty good eye for what 1 inch is, and so I can probably envision this and how high it's going to be. The real trick is going to be the slopes that we're going to put in. As soon as we put that ground covering down, you guys are going to notice a massive difference in the project. And we're going to move from that relatively flat surface over to something far more exciting. All right, so let's go and put this back down that we cut it. We're going to do a bit back and forth, so my apologies. Oh, there we go. All right, so it's going to fit. I think we kind of did something like that. Sort of change the flare a little bit. Went a little bit shallower here just to give ourselves a little bit more room. We may need to kick that out a bit more. I'm not 100% sure that's going to be enough to allow us to put I think that'll be good. We don't need a ton of room for these. So the whole idea is the hut is actually what we want to have featured there. That's the playable space, if you will. So I don't need to have a bunch of room around the hut. What I do want to make sure is that I have room to make sure this doesn't interfere with the tree. I think this is quite nice. It's actually quite close to the tree, which is cool because I have this sort of like weird knob right here, and we can actually tie that together and maybe perhaps spiral down some vines coming down this right off the tree, and I can have a better transition between that sort of knob right there and the tree itself. So if we do something like that, we've got a little bit more space here. The retaining wall is likely going to sort of split the difference, sort of half the line. So that'll be kind of the center point of the retaining wall as it goes out there. Now, the next piece though is going to have to be, I guess, where we're going to want to put the hut. So we want to have that sort of transitional element, have the wall go there, and then maybe that transitions up to the top, and maybe the hut's a little bit more over this way. I think that's probably okay. Gives us some room, gives us some playable space in between here. I don't want to have the huts too close together because I do want to be able to get in between them, but at the same time I needed to have some room in here. Can't just be like, there's no point in putting like 1 or 2 inches of space here where it's like you can set one figure and one figure only. You need to have some room. If you're going to make that a playable space, have a unit, have enough space to deploy a unit or two. So again, that's when you get into that design feature where it's like, what is the intent of the design? If it's merely aesthetics, then you don't really have to account for anything. But there's only so much space on here. I only have so much real estate, so I got to make those considerations. So I think that'll be okay there for the next hut. But what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to lay in a few more pieces of paper, and then let's start getting in that second retaining wall as well. What's that going to look like? What's that one going to entail? So what I'm going to do is just fold this paper along the line of the tree. Go. And then we're going to have that sort of scoop out that way. So we'll tape those two pieces of paper together and lay another line in. Oh, right in the way. That couldn't have been any better. Okay, so we had it sort of connecting right here, swooping through this way, and so it was something like, now that I have the hut in place, and I might actually grab the other base just to assist me with the visual. If I do want to have this maybe set back to the edge, we have the other wall sort of connecting there. That might be quite interesting if we then have something we didn't really consider before. Is it might be cool to have the two profiled walls here, so then looking from this edge you're going to see this wall, but then you'll actually see this one, which will be the full 2.5, and that will look really good for the windows to set in there, because we can go ground level as opposed to this one, which is going to be 1 inch and then 1.5 inch transfer. So it'll be kind of, now it'll be ground level, inch, 2.5 inches, so it'd be a 1.5 inch bump up, and then from here to there will be a 2.5 inch bump, which then be a full clamber to get up there. I really like that. See, I'm selling myself on the idea here as we go. Now I just need to have some consideration for how far in here do I want to have this. Do I want to have a kind of a full base width as we go around? That seems to be a bit tight, so I might want to squeeze that out there. I think I will sell myself on that idea. Alright, so let's come in here. As soon as I cut this one, you guys will see what I mean. And I think you guys will get a sense of what it looks like. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that should be okay. There may be a little negative space in there just where the template doesn't match up with the other one, but we'll be able to define that easily enough. This is just paper at this point, so. All right, swap back under here. Go. Let's go in and cut this template out. Same as before. It's kind of nice to follow a project too, if you guys haven't sort of ever seen any of the projects that I do, or any of the work that I have done, like where they sort of get a start. You know, a lot of times you'll see like an end photo or like a 2-month work in progress photo, but this is right from concept, so I don't usually share a ton of this stuff, but I thought it'd be fun this week being home and COVID and all, so. Not that I have COVID, I just mean in the sense that it's COVID times right now. All right, we got to figure out how far back I have. Obviously I had this to the edge of the table, so there. So there's just a little bit of space. Let me just throw a piece of paper in there so it doesn't look wonky. There. So now when we have a look at that piece, you can see, as soon as that wants to focus, blah, 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 blah. do. There we go. Look at that, guys. I hit the cable on the way across. So now when we're looking at that, we have, I'll slide this again out of the way, lots of moving. We have one retaining wall running in here, sloping in, and then this will be that 1 inch level, and then the other retaining wall there, and then obviously it has the same contour from before. It's there, so we get this really cool visual aspect. Now, what we do need to figure out is not necessarily the final placement of the huts. We already decided that we have enough room for that. But what we do need to figure out now is like what is going to be what's our exit strategy, so to speak, in terms of how do we get from this now newly elevated 2.5 inch platform off this backside. So that is a consideration that we are going to need to make. Now it could just be a slope, right? We could just cut in. We talked about having these steeps sort of on the back and sort of like cutting into those and sort of stepping it down, which could definitely be one option for us. Or a natural slope would be fine. We could cut in some various elements to get us down there. We could do more of a rocky sort of outcropping, and then of course we can truncate that and have it much shorter as long as we have a path or something up through those rocks. And so that might be cool too. But in order to really get a visual for that, what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to see what this translates into. We're going to have to see what is that physically going to look like now. So in order to do that most appropriately, we're going to need to continue with our templates. And so I will do that with you now. I'm going to need to finish this incomplete template now that I have this other one in place. And what I mean by that is we're going to need is just slide this paper underneath here. We want to fill all that space in. So we're just going to take that there, tape that there, and that's going to become sort of our first template. Got to do a few more pencil lines. We need to draw this one in so we can cut it. And to do that, we just need to follow the curvature of our template. Kind of look something like that. Okay. And the other thing we're going to do is draw in this line. I'm just going to trace the line using the other template. And then we'll go translate this over onto a piece of foam, and then we'll come through and we'll cut that piece of foam as well, at least just to get us the rough piece. Okay. Lots of moving around today. Okay. Need my assistance? Okay. So just bear with me 1 second, folks. I'm going to leave the stream on the tree, and I will be right back momentarily to assist my wife. All right, sorry about that, folks. Had to get the car seat in. Safety first. All right. So back over to cutting this template before we can translate it over to the foam. It's going to be rather difficult to cut the foam actually here, to be perfectly honest, just because it's a full sheet. It's not going to fit on the table. So we'll worry about getting the templates done, and we can come back and see the foam in place once it's actually in place. We're going to translate this in, just sort of getting in its final position. And we're just missing a small triangle of the template, which we need to tape on and then cut out. Like one of those awkward situations where this is where the tree not being here would be fantastic. We could take it out, but it's just excess time that we're not really looking to waste right now. Alright, so we're gonna pop that on, and then we'll translate this over. This template over top of this template to figure out exactly where we want to cut this. All right, there we go. So that one gets cut there. Okay, so this is the piece that we're going to lay in there, and then the other piece is going to come right over top of that. And we have some indexing points. Obviously, we know that this one runs along the side of the tree. We know it runs along the side of here. We just have to transition that point. Cut the end of this. Then we have our two templates ready to go. In theory. Of course, we could do some fine trimming in here as need be. This guy here, I think we need to shift it along there and then there. All right, so it is looking pretty good. Got the two. Now, when we go to translate this to the foam, the reason that we're not going to cut this as one big piece is this 1-inch piece is going to fit in nice and snug, and then this piece is going to need to be 2.5. So this is actually going to need to be, we're going to cut it out of 1-inch slabs, and you guys aren't looking at the right image. So my apologies for that. Yep. So as I was saying, we'll cut this 1-inch slab here, and then we'll cut this out of two 1-inch slabs with a 1/2-inch slab to go on top of that. And then that's just a lot easier if there's any errors or need to have corrections, rather than cutting one big large piece that you have to then make corrections in. We could fix or replace any one piece, and it's just a lot more economical. It's also a lot less margin for error. If we are trying to figure out the top piece. Now, in theory, what we could do is we could cut one piece the same, and then if we did make an error, we could then chop off the corresponding piece. That's also an option. The reason being, or why that may be of interest, is that there's no need to account for this complex angle to start. So that may be an option for us. Let me grab a slab of foam. So this would be the 1-inch foam here, and if we look at this, we can more or less translate that into a workable piece. I did want to talk a little bit about this 1-inch foam here, just so that you guys are aware. We talked about the foam before, and I talked about the bevel. It may be a little difficult to see, but there is a distinct bevel in this piece, and the larger the foam, the more likely there is to be a bevel, specifically if you're talking about 8-inch or 8-foot pieces. So when you are gluing this down, one of the things that you should do is specifically if you need to make measurements with it, make sure that you take the flex out and flatten that down as much as possible before you take the measurements. If you take it when it has the natural bow, what's going to happen is you're going to cut it, you're going to flex it down, you're going to put weight on it, and it's actually going to be longer than you need. It's going to be proud of the point that you measured before. If you flex it down to measure and then don't flex it down when you cut, you're very likely going to cut it short. So that's another consideration to make as well. So just keep in mind that likely there will be a bit of flex and bow in the foam itself, and so you want to account for that when you are in fact cutting. So that's going to be a consideration that we need to make. So like I said, we'll translate this over and we'll probably cut that off stream and get that back for you guys after. So I'm not going to worry about how to put the transitions in or anything like that. We can cut those pieces in after. We could cut a set of stairs in perhaps, or ramp, depending on how much real estate that we have to work with. When it comes to where I'm going to finish that piece off, because of course I have that natural, like I need to have some sort of slope going down. So what I'm going to do is I want to end off this template in some sort of resemblance. My thought is, the more and more I look at this, is that while we're coming up from the beach, we're going to go to the 1-inch, then up to the 2.5-inch, and then we need to get back down. I think what I'm going to do on this backside, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down 1 inch and use the same premise that I used here on the front retaining wall. So that same sort of look, just to balance that out. So where I have this swooping 1-inch retaining wall, I'm going to have the same or similar feature on the backside. So let's go ahead and measure that out and just sort of see what kind of looks we can come up with. Now, where's the nice natural point to come off this? It's got this little indentation here on the back side of the tree, and so perhaps that's a nice little place where we can have that sort of swooping wall come off. Don't want to have anything too aggressive. Don't want to have a big bend here, but we do want to have some sort of resemblance of this front curvature. So perhaps what we could do is something like that, where then it becomes a little bit more of a bit of a bend, but then it kind of moves into this sort of straight section. So let's make some considerations here. Let's grab, I don't think there's going to be too many heavies placed on this, and if they are, they certainly don't need to go to the corner, but let's grab something like reasonably big in size, and let's grab an air speeder here. I'm just going to pop that down into the corner. I know you guys can't quite see that. Let me just make a small adjustment without hitting the wire this time, perhaps. There we go. So if I were to put an air speeder here in the corner, I got enough room to place that. I can place it, it's not falling, it's not precariously dangling off the table or anything like that, but it's reasonable. It's not going to be a place to place like an AAT or anything of that size here in the corner. We have other spaces that we can place that. But I think that's enough room where I can have this nice curvature. That gives me that 1 inch. Here's another thing that it does. It allows me to slope the ground up from the outside edge without having to complete the slope. And what I mean by that is I don't need to come from 1/2 inch all the way up to the full 2.5. I can actually build this up a little bit artificially with another layer of foam, and consider that the ground layer, sort of bisecting this slope. So the slope's going to come down. It's never going to achieve a ground level, specifically in this area here. This other space where I have much more room to run that out, so the rise over the run here, I have more space to continue that curve, that incline or decline. And so from here, we're gonna truncate it down to that 1 inch mark, so 2.5, we're gonna cut it down to 1 inch, and then we'll have about 1.5 inches decline into this surface here. And that becomes much more manageable, specifically where we have this space. And again, we're gonna run that down, that vegetation. This will be built up of vegetation, and we'll run that right into the beach over here. So I think that is going to work. So you guys can truly kind of see how the concepts sort of develop, right? We know what we're trying to do, but what does it physically look like on the table? To draw out a concept drawing, it's like, yeah, but I didn't account for this nub being here, or I didn't really realize how much space I had here. So it's quite important to kind of work your way through this. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on there. Grab a couple more pieces of paper. And I'm not really big into wasting paper, but the reason that I am crumpling up the scraps is that I don't confuse myself in thinking that that was some template that I did need to use. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this piece of paper, try to cover as much space as I can this way. Just square that up. I'll have a little bit to cut off, so I'm not too close to the edge. And then in here, we're going to have a little bit more of a complex cut in terms of we're going to have a bit of a tree to work around. So what we'll do is we'll just sort of push this into the tree. We'll sort of use our fingernail to define that line if we can, sort of getting as much of this as we can. We'll cut that out, and then we'll see what else we can do. Alright, so we're going to run that right here. Let me know if you guys got any questions or if you want to see anything in more detail. Go. All right, I should probably tape these pieces of paper together. Before I get too far off. Make those small adjustments. There we go. Okay, so a couple more pieces of tape, and then we'll cut this template out. And then I think we have all of our retaining walls built in. When I should probably be able to get that done tonight. I do need to podcast here in about another hour and a half. So hey, if you guys want to hang out and listen to more of my prattling on, come join us on the Legion Academy tonight. We'll probably be talking a few things Kashyyyk. And then I got some more packing to do tonight, a couple more hours worth of building tonight. I probably won't finish, give myself a little bit of a break. It's been a marathon in terms of getting that packing done. Shift that around. I'll just cut this one here if you guys don't mind me switching the camera. I'll just cut it from this one. Pretty excited about these walls. I think they're going to look pretty good when we get them laid in. Got to figure out the adornments for the front. I'll probably just plastic carve them up and kind of make them look a little bit like sort of armored. Maybe I'll try to replicate some of the look of the barricades, because again, they're really nondescript in terms of what they look like. I can't tell anything other than it looks like they have a little bit of a porthole or a window. So I might make them a little bit like pillbox shape, or like pillbox esque in nature, so that just like sort of gun slit coming through, and we'll sort of see if we can replicate that look and see how it pans out. All right, I'm just gonna cut to here, figure out how close we are around it doesn't need to be super precise because around the bottom of the tree, we'll definitely be using some ground, some sculpted molds to affix to the bottom of the tree. Sure, just trying to follow this contour. That's probably pretty close. Not sure how much space I have. It looks like it can come up a little bit more. Jam that in there. There we go. You guys can see that sort of in and around the tree. And then I just wanted to figure out what the rest of the template looks here. Just using my fingernail to draw the line when I need to cut. Little trick. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll pop that back into here. Use that guide of the edge. There. Let's tape that onto this. There we go. There, we should just come in and we'll create a little bit of a piece to finish up. Again, that foam's gonna need to follow this a little bit better. I want to have it a bit closer. So I'll just cut this piece of paper and match that up. Tape that off. You can just see the template just keeps growing and growing. But you can just imagine trying to do this like from a piece of foam and like just trying to take these measurements and like constantly hacking your foam down more and more and more and more and more. Then the second you like make that wrong cut and it's too small, you've like that foam's not cheap. I think it's cost me about $25 for a by a 2x8 sheet. And so, you know, you can only, this template here is going to be, you know, roughly 2 feet long. So you'd only have like 4 tries at it. And, you know, it's about a $6 cut, if you will. Any one cut could end up costing you $6. So $6 and a bunch of material. Specifically because this is so unique in shape that all those rounded edges aren't really going to translate to having a use down the road. You cut it into smaller squares and such, but that's a lot of material just to waste. I'm just gonna grab a piece of paper here to finish up this template. Mark off that inside. These are by far close enough for the purposes of cutting the foam later. Got all that in there. Let me take that off. How are we doing for time? Oh, pretty good. 53. It's about an hour to get this done. But an hour spent now is much more beneficial than hours down the road and frustration. Okay, so let's pull this out for a second. See this a little bit more in concept. So effectively, I'm just going to tape that piece down before I lose that corner. So effectively, this is going to be our levels, our changes here. So we're going to have this first one, putting that line back in there. That's going to be 1 inch foam, and we're going to have that up from the beach. Now keep in mind the beach is effectively, let's say, ground level, but truthfully it's about a ½ inch shorter than ground level. So it's about a ½ inch run from here to here, exactly a ½ inch. Then we're going to step up a quick 1 inch here. Then this is going to be 2.5 inches high. And the difference here, this line, is going to be 1.5 inches up. So half ground level to an inch to an inch and a half, then to the 2.5 inch, and it's going to be a really quick truncated elevation change. So that is, we translate that out into like the physical look. This is going to be, I got a 1 inch slab here, I'll grab that. This is going to be our beach to first level, and then that's going to have a hut. And then we're going to go ½ inch, inch and a half, 2 inch, 2.5 inch. And so that's going to become our new ground level with hut here. And so that'll be the changes in those huts. So change from here to here is about half the change from here to here. So I love that sort of transition. And again, it's half. So half up, half again, and then that one is much closer to about 2 inches up. So that's definitely probably just a difficult move there as is. So that's going to be our transition from the beach up the hut, retaining wall up to here. Now from here, going back down on the back slope, if we just translate that over to here, so now we're talking about this at level. This is where our hut is here. We're going to go back down with a 1 inch retaining wall. So we're going to have a little bit more of a decline here. We're going to put a 1 inch slab there. And so we'll have a 1.5 inch retaining wall there, which will be very similar to the one that we had here. So that's going to be replicated. And then we'll go from this 1 inch and then slope it back down, truncate it here, but slope it back down to the beach. And we got much more of a run here, get that full 1 inch, but we already have a pretty short transition here. So I think we'll be able to achieve that, bring it right down into the roots of the tree, nice slope there, and then bring that sand right in. So I think it's going to translate out rather nicely. So tomorrow, if you guys come back to check it out, you can definitely see that. I'll probably do a little bit more of the filming of the steps along the way. I'm going to do an update as I get this translated out tonight. Whoops, I just popped off one of those pieces. I'll do this, a Patreon update later so that they can see a few things. I haven't done any specific updates for them as of yet, just because I'm packing that project, which I need to do a video on, a slideshow for that, but we'll get that up. But I really like that. I think we got something achieved. And if you look at this in terms of like how much real estate did this take up, obviously the tree takes up a pretty good portion of this, probably about 1/5 or 1/6 of the real estate. This is definitely going to be equivalent of that, if not a bit more. And we did the beach, which is again 1/3 of the table. So between the tree and the platforms or the barricades or walls, whatever you want to have, and the beach, we haven't left a ton of room, or we don't have a ton of room to plan out. We obviously want to have some open space with that sloping sand coming in, so that's important. We want to have some area to put some vegetation in, so we have that as well. So really looking forward to that. I think when this gets in here, while it seems like a little bit drastic, it's like, oh, it's 1 inch, it's going to be quite a big jump. It's the equivalent of like a barricade height. But again, keep in mind, we have that sculpted mold coming in, so that that 1 inch is probably going to be closer to 3/4 inch. This will be a true 1.5, but we want to have that look there. This 2.5 to ground level, that's probably going to be closer to like 2.25, 2, if we're really aggressive with how we bring up the sculpted mold here. We can plan for that and kind of have a little bit of a vegetation patch right in against the wall. this 1 inch sloping down, that's going to be gradual. It won't even look that aggressive because we have so much room. Over here, we're going to truncate that slope, so that's not going to be, it's only going to really be half the distance that we need to go down. So there's going to be a lot of ways, because of the shrunken space that we're working with, to really sell the look of this. It's not going to be like this 2.5-inch jump off the table where it's like, the only way to get over that is to climb, or we're going to have some natural easeways, right? We're going to have those pathways or those ramps, perhaps, that becomes the expedited route, but maybe it's not the most straight line. Maybe you have to kind of meander through this to actually move at a regular pace. But that makes sense. That should translate into something in terms of the gameplay. If everywhere was just as easy to get as the next, then there's not really any point in having focal features or varying elements. So hopefully that translates to some sort of sense in terms of where we're going. Join me again tomorrow, 5 Central. I'll be here. I'm going to jump back to the screen here just for a second. If there's any questions, you guys were super quiet today. That's okay. But I had to entertain you with my meandering thoughts as we work our way through the table. Let's jump back over here. Let me swap this back over real quick. Perfect. All right. So yeah, like I said, tomorrow we'll likely revisit the barricades, or the barrier walls rather, but I'll have the foam in, and so we'll keep that. We'll keep kind of working in that one particular area. So Dark Matter Workshop, appreciate that, working alongside. I always recommend that. So I am going to jump off here. We're at that hour mark, but if you want to listen to a little bit more about the Kashyyyk Project, or perhaps Yoda, or perhaps some of the other units, you guys can join me at 6:30 Central. It'll be over on the Legion Academy YouTube channel. And we'll myself and Joe will be on there prattling on as we usually do on Wednesday nights. So and now that we're back, we're kind of hitting this flow. So I had this long hiatus from Legion Academy. Long as 3 weeks. That's forever when you've been doing it for a few years. But this week, hey, I've made it. I had a little hiccup yesterday with my C-stand, but I powered through. Yeah, so here we are. We're back. This is day 5, so the halfway point in terms of what we're going to film for these next 10 days. The project won't be done, and it won't be done in terms of sharing content either. So if you guys want to watch this thing start to finish, or more or less start to finish, the tree was already done, and I did that from previous videos. But we'll get this looking pretty good, and I'm hoping to beat COVID. In terms of like the COVID restrictions being lifted, so that we have it done and ready, so the locals can jump on here and do some Friday night fights, because I think you guys would like to see that. I certainly would like to see that, and the battling going on the table. So if you guys are interested in any of that, hey Al from England, be sure to follow the channel. If you guys want to sub me on YouTube, you can. That's free, no problem. If you want to support anything happening in the studio, you can check out the studio Patreon. That's awesome. I'm going to leave you guys today with the latest tutorial, the March tutorial. They come out at the end of the month. I know it's April. They come out at the end of the month. It's on mud bases. Interesting. I've been talking about doing some more 15 millimeter terrain. So if you guys don't know anything about me, for about 10 years, I did nothing but 15 mil terrain. I did a ton of that specifically for the game Flames of War. I was heavily involved in that game competitively, in terms of playing, as well as building tables. I built a lot of tables. And lately I've just been really inspired to kind of do some of that. So my latest tutorial on mud roads was inspired by that, and just a technique that I did like several years ago that I think that I can do better. And so that I've been working on that, and that's the premise of the tutorial. I am actually going to bring that through to a full diorama. So this month, stay tuned. We will continue on that. So awesome. Dark Matter saying, I remember your Flames of War stuff. Please remember it. I'm going to be doing some more. So I've just been rekindling and reconnecting with some people at Battlefront, and hopefully I can get something going there and doing some stuff. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that I now own a business, and so I have to manage my time more effectively, and I can't always do what I want, even though that is something that I'd love to do. So even in my hobby world, I have to prioritize some things, and obviously customers are the number one priority. You guys are second. Of course, and that will never change. So everybody gets prioritized over the things that I want to do. So whatever you guys want me to see or show you, do on the tutorials, please suggest that on the Patreon as well. I will certainly take those under advisement and do up what I can. But this is effectively like a 10-day tutorial on all things Kashyyyk. So I will let you guys go there. I always like to prattle on at the end of the videos just to touch base and catch up with the chat comments. But please enjoy the quick intro or / trailer. And if you've already seen it, then you can click off. But I will catch you guys tomorrow. And if I don't see you tomorrow, then hopefully I see you tonight on the Legion Academy. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned.